Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm Tom Shellcross. With me, as always, is Mark Ainley. Mark, you did a hell of a job at John Warren's meetup the other night. Nice work, man.
I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate John Warren and the WSBOA. West
and Vicky Mays. I'm cutting her short. Sorry. John and Vicky.
Yeah, it was Vicky and John that invited me out, so I greatly appreciate it. I got to speak in front of, I think there's 40 or so people there. Great crowd. Hopefully I added some value there. But yeah, no, I one, I love seeing everybody out, but two, I love hoping I could try to add some value. And they got a great group there. They've had a great group for a long time, and I'm so happy they're part of the MBOA now.
Yeah. So what was funny, for those who attended our 200th episode event, we gave John an award, but it was just my 7th grade basketball trophy. So we were able to give him the real award, which was kind of funny. Haha. And then John came up to me afterwards, because you had the picture of the night we gave him the basketball trophy on the screen. He goes, "Look what I'm wearing." And it's the exact same outfit he was wearing that night.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's like, "I need to buy some clothes."
Yeah, that's awesome. Or he's yeah, we got to give him a shirt.
We'll get him a Straight Up Chicago Investor t-shirt.
Yeah, the merch, check out we'll lead into check out the merch store at straightupchicagoinvestor.com and get entered into the Chicago Fact.
Yeah. Well, hey man, I'm every time I go to one of those, I always feel more pumped about our city. After talking to today's guest, I'm just jacked up on our city again, man. Like, just great, just first generation here, just Chicago and true. And I'm very excited for this episode.
Man, it's so hard to talk to a guest like we have today without, he just brings so much energy, and it's positive energy. And he just has this, we talk a little about leadership and so forth, but it's easy to see how he's such a natural leader amongst his company, how he's been able to take his company from A to D in just a short time. So great episode. Yeah.
All right. So before we jump in though, what's our housing provider tip of the week?
Housing provider tip of the week. You know what? I've been, I jumped into our turnovers in our property management company at GC, and training somebody new, and, just looking through some of these turnover scopes and some ways to really reduce some of the costs for more of the apartment type stuff. But, people a lot of times are adding towel bars. Every single time we do a turnover, a towel bar is loose. Like, don't add towel bars. They have all these non-stick 3M things you can put up there, or the tenant can put up there, or put the rack over the back of the door. So towel bars end up just being something you have to address when it falls out or gets loose. Mirrors, we have a lot of people that we have these nice big vanities, and then we throw a mirror with more cabinet, and that just ends up, if you got to replace that, costs more. We've have a lot of 5 or 6 bulb fixtures when it's like a little 6x4 room, and all you need is a 3 bulb fixture. Like, all these little things, if you have hundreds of properties, or even if you have 20 properties, just end up being more time and money when you're trying to go through and turn over your property. And that's one of the things I've been working on, is trying to be more efficient at our turnover process to save our clients money and be able to do it faster.
Good stuff. All right, today's guest, we're going to jump right in here, but this man is a ball of energy. They're up to over 2,600 units. I can't remember. We had them on 2 years ago. I can't remember what the number was, but it wasn't 2,600. They just continue to make good purchases here in the 3 neighborhoods they play in. A visionary, a leader, has over 50 employees under him working hard. Without further ado, Sal Becovic, welcome back to the show. Well, it's been 2 years. Welcome back. We're excited to have you here, man. Before we jump in, I do have just a funny question for you. I'm actually walking a building with Rick Hoffman after this. I know you're friends with Rick. I know you bought that Winthrop building from him. And I told him we were talking, and he said, "Ask Sal about his new workout regimen." So before we jump into the 2,600 units and all that great opportunities, let's hear about the new workout regimen.
You're holding me account now. To account. Yeah, I'm just turned 45 years old, guys. And I had that moment. I had 2 kids, a 5-year-old, 2-year-old. And I'm like, you know what? I can't keep up. So I need to step up my game. So I just recently got to get a trainer. My first workout was yesterday. My guy texted me and said, "How you feeling?" I'm like, you know what? I just, outside of like complaining, I said, just good. I just texted good. But my body just, but good. It's, thank you for asking. Hopefully, when I look back at this video 2 years from now, from last time, right? I came on the show. It was not just a blip. It was a lifestyle. So hopefully that's what we're trying to do over here.
Well, what's your health goals though, man? Put it out there. That way you have to be accountable to it.
Oh my goodness.
You're just trying to lose weight. You're trying to get more
I,
energy.
I,
Yeah,
have
man,
I have one of those scales, those body fat scales.
The
And
DEXA thing.
and I was, I'm like 20 and at 21. Okay, I'm being honest, 21.4%. So hopefully we do this show another 2 years from now. I'm at least 18, 17%, nice and lean. Maybe 15 if I go nuts, which I hope I don't go nuts. I really don't want to go nuts. I don't want to be that guy. But yeah, there's some level of there's some body fat thing you want to be able to tighten up. I mean, and as you get older, Mark, how old are you?
I'm 42.
Yeah, so I mean, you're mid 40, and Tom, you're what?
By the time this airs, I might be 40. It's right around there.
Great. So I mean, right now I mean, you get mid 40s, you got to get ahead of the game. I mean, it goes downhill fast.
Well, I was at just about 11 months ago, I was at 28%, and now I'm down to 16%. So
you know what? You look I was gonna ask, are you sick?
Oh man. But my goal is only I want to get down to 12% for no other reason, just to say in some future 20-year from now conversation, like, yeah, dude, at one time I was 12%. Like
cool.
that's my only goal.
Are you what kind of regimen are you doing?
It's working out and just really eating. It's more a diet for me.
He eats caffeine pills and fruit. That's Mark's diet.
You were 28. Now wow, good for you, bud. Oh, way to go.
We can turn this into this will be the Alex Hermosi health podcast now.
You know what? Hey, we can probably splice it into a new podcast, right? We can
there you go.
Spin-offs. Throw it in there, yeah.
So, but Sal, you've been extremely busy, right? Like even from the time we talked last week to today, I saw on LinkedIn, you guys closed on that 28 unit high rise in Edgewater, and you guys have been in pure acquisition mode. Talk to us just about the last 2 years, right? Like what was this the goal to be, this heavy in acquisitions? Like, let's start there and let's start talking about, just the mindset. And then we'll talk about maybe some of the deals or some of the struggles as rates have tripled.
I was going to start out the conversation by asking, what's up, guys?
Okay. No, man, let's dive in. We had the health out of the way. Let's do it.
Okay. Outside of rates, right? So I never go into, I don't have internal goals of, I want to get a certain count. I want to get a certain scale. I want to get a certain number of households or units. It's not our incentive. It's because we own and operate the stuff, right? We're not, we're fully invested in the stuff. I'm not, it's a different outlook. It's just a different thought process. We're not looking to make fees on something, right? Whatever we own, we're going to own.
Yeah, you're a true investor. And if you pull in capital, it's just because you need capital. It's not to make additional money. Like you're an investor.
I think we've gone through a yang to the yin in our market. Our markets have gone like inside out. A couple of years ago, 2 years, September, right? September, October 2021, we were digging out from historically the worst operating time of my history, and probably a lot of old timers would say their history, right? Especially in Chicago, suburbs, different story. Obviously, other states, different story. But Chicago city of Chicago, the worst operating. We are digging out of that. Our nadir was in April of 2021, and we were digging out of that going into September, October, and we were still digging. And in fact, we kept digging through early 2022 and mid 2022, and then we finally got traction on rent roll going into late 22, and obviously 2023 has been a historic on the other side operating market. So we went from, but funny you say, but the idea is we have a historically terrible rent roll, let's say that, and historically unbelievably aggressive debt markets, right? And now all of a sudden you flip it, and now we have historic rent rolls, historic operating. 2023 has been the best, is reminding me like 2011, 2012 in my business. If you guys can go back that far. But our interest has obviously double, and in some cases 2.5 to 3 times, depending on the product. So, but and something has to give, right? In the meantime, Sal, you just bought a 154 unit deconversion, biggest deal you've ever done. Why are you doing it, knowing that there's these question marks in the market? And I would say, at the end of the day, I would want your audience to also train them the way I'm trying to train myself, is be rate agnostic. The level of trying to make yourself rate agnostic, where at the end of the day, you don't get caught up in what the rate is, as long as you can make sure you pencil it out, and you pencil it out conservatively. I don't want to get too long-winded. Cut me off, Tom. If there's
but what do you mean by rate agnostic? So if
I think it's a level of rigor. Let's say first, I have to say this. I'm a big fan of Succession, the HBO show, and I think you guys are early on in it. At the end, the father, as the kids are trying to take on the succession of the business, the father finally realizes, and that these kids are half-baked, a little off. And he says to them, and it was so profound to me, because this is a guy that will just curse you out and just call you stupid, and come up with those like cut down names. But when he comes up to his kids and says, "You are not serious people," and when he said that, it wasn't like, "I'm trying to cut you down," is that your mind is not serious, right? You guys can go around, and when he said that, it was so profound. And I will say to everybody here, this is a time for serious people, right? This is a time for using rigor, using discipline, not for the last 10 years, we got a lot of support, and we got a lot of, we were not frugal, or we let our budgets get ahead of us. We probably did things, we probably could have done things a lot better, but at the end of the day, we still look smart, Tom and Mark, because rates were at our back. Now it's a whole different story. There's a level of rigor. There's a level of rate agnosticism, which you have to start thinking about now, being more tough on what you're doing and what you're spending and how you're managing, and not expecting, even now, don't do a deal expecting we're going to be at 5.5% 2 years from now, because that was 4 years ago, right? We have to think about, this is going to be a lot higher for longer, and we have to make sure that operationally we dig in. We're not high flyers. All the high flyers, let them blow up. Let them fly, fly to the sunset. Now, the high flyers are gone right now. The guys that your audience, they get in, they force appreciation. It's not about fly appreciation, where the appreciation flies. You're forcing the appreciation through your knowledge, through your market knowledge, and through obviously managing the costs of any renovation, and being on top of that, and not letting that get ahead of yourself.
Yep. So yeah, great points there. I make the joke with Chris when I see him at a job site, like, you had 6 guys working there. It's like, all right, we are earning our keep right here, right? Like every ounce of construction you are doing, you are earning that additional value in the building. Like, it is earned is the word that I keep going back to. So when you're underwriting these deals, or you're looking at these deals, when you say rate agnostic, like, are you saying, to our listeners out there looking to purchase, their 6 unit, their 9 units, what you're doing at a much smaller scale, are you looking at it just as a pure NOI, and like, all right, the rate is here what it is today, I'm going to assume it's the same later, and if I can make this thing pencil at whatever expected return, like, go, we put our foot on the gas and we move forward?
That's exactly that. There's this level, and it's also making sure that you're just the rigor. You have you're conservative, and you're allowing you're not going to, guys. There was a time that the old timers, you'd go back to the old timers, and they paid 15 grand a unit, right? And we go, and some of us say, or you may know an uncle or a dad or somebody that say, oh, you paid 15 grand a unit. You should have backed up the truck. You could have bought neighborhoods at 15 grand a unit, not realizing, but that 15 grand a unit was an underwriting at 25% taxes. That was an underwriting at 14% interest rate. And guess what? That didn't underwrite any appreciation, because appreciation of the asset was never part of the plan, especially coming out of the 80s, early 80s, after they went through the crazy jump of interest rates. Guys, we can be either 1978, where rates dropped, and then it was a head fake. It went up early mid 70s, then they dropped, and we thought, oh, we're back to the 60s. Everyone back then. But then all of a sudden, what happened is head fake. Sorry, poop, 14%. Through 1978 to 1983, and then 1983 was that drop over the downward from there. So, and those guys in the early 80s, they never thought about appreciation because they got destroyed. Their thought was, holy crap. And we got this. So there's no appreciation in the game. So when you take appreciation out of your calculations, Tom, then all of a sudden you start thinking, okay, I got to make this thing cash flow. This thing has to be, or I have to be able to force appreciate it to make sure that I can cash flow it. I'll make the renovation, but then I have to have a certainty that, you know what, that cash flow, that investment will be able to merit and get a 30 or 40% top line growth or 50% top line growth. So then you calculate that way, right? And you calculate it at the interest rate that you're at now. Anything that goes below, that's gravy. It's gravy. That's where when I first started this business, let me just say this. 10 years ago, 2013, I started to grow the family business, which was at 400 units. We're celebrating our 50 years, by the way, this year. You're invited, open house.
5-0, man, that's impressive.
50 years, and guys, I need this. I need your audience to hear this. 50-year celebration of what? A painter, union house painter, painted apartments, and a house cleaning lady. They lived 5 years in Uptown, and they rented. And after 5 years, my dad, that painter, said, I just don't want to pay. I don't want to pay rent anymore. So he found an apartment building in Albany Park. He bought it on a purchase mortgage. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to live in there, and I'm going to have these residents pay that rent for me. And you know what? Maybe I'll make some extra, but I'm still going to keep my job. And honey, you still keep your job. And what ended up happening is that's just, you do it very pragmatic and very simple. And all of a sudden he realized that this side job, and the rest is history, he bought the building next door, then bought the next building next door 3 years later. He was 28, 30, mid 30s. And then all of a sudden he made the big hop into Edgewater. But it was based off very simple plans and premises. He didn't say, I'm going to be a real estate mogul. I just didn't want to pay my rent anymore. And I want to live in with the residents. I want to be a resident, right? So just that story. And we're celebrating 50 years. And that's the way things started, right?
Yeah.
So
first off, congrats on that. And second off, that needs to be reheard by so many listeners, because you go to these meetups and everyone wants to take over the world, and you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? Just get into that first unit, right? Just get that first one done, and then go do the next one, and then build your team and continue. Like, there is a process that you have to follow. You're not special. You don't get to skip the line. Like, you have to follow the process.
You got it.
Tried and true for 50 years.
That's what we're celebrating. Very simple, and I hope it does resonate with our listeners, because it comes it's not this idea. I want to be a mogul. I just want I want to be able to build. I want this guy. I want my neighbor to pay my mortgage, right? I want my neighbor to, in effect, pay my rent, and then you go from there. And then all of a sudden you see, okay, this can be a real business, which was the case.
Very good. So, Sal, you're obviously, foot on the gas here. Let's hear your perspective on Chicago specifically, right? Because, there's people who've shied away. There's people who are selling off the portfolio. And then there's people who are doubling and tripling down in the city. Where do you stand and why?
Hey, remember the great balloon squeeze?
Oh, yeah. We'll go back. For those who haven't heard, episode 88.
I will go back to let your listeners go back to 2 years ago on our last. I was making that up as I was saying it, as you probably noticed. But the idea of the balloon squeeze, the reality is still there. We were the squeeze part, while places like Florida Arizona were the other side of the squeeze, right? And we were getting the squeeze. Now, all of a sudden, guess what's happening right now? It's starting to even out. That we have a lot more clarity now. Our markets, the blood is gushed through our veins back. Okay. We are now, and we are, in fact, I would argue the squeeze is starting to go on the other side, right? I think people are starting to see the value of Chicago back after we went through what we went through, which, it was a blip in time. It was a crazy time, a couple that we came out of. So I think ultimately, I need you to be on the mindset. We're in our 40s now, right, guys? I want a lot of the listeners out, and a lot of the mid 40s and the 50 guys, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, I think they don't realize, or at least they forget. If I'm 24 years old and I'm 25 years old, I have to take myself back to that. There's no place outside of New York that I can come to if I'm from California. I have a guy in my office, young guy, mid-20s, went to Michigan, come to Chicago. And this is where he wants to live. This is what he wants to do. This is where he wants to invest, right? But going back to this idea of we get so old, our dopamine receptors are not so, they're dulled, and now we have family, and now we get well worried because of our kids. If you go back to a 25-year-old, there's no place that I want to be is in somewhere in Uptown or in Edgewater, up to Lakeview, outside of whatever, all the drama. And then you drive into the city, the receptors are just blaring. There's no, sometimes you just have to go back to that thinking. And that's the reason why we got this gush coming through the city. The city is, there's no place for business. This is the only place, especially our kind of business, this is the only place that you have any potential value that you can create. And you have so much of it that's out there. So yeah, I continue to be bullish on our city. And I think, I think we all should be. And it's paid, with time that you've been able to see it, that there's markets like Arizona. There are people getting beheaded in Arizona right now, in Phoenix. Oh yeah, there are people who are gonna even in Florida. People are getting out of the woodwork. The insurances are coming out of the woodwork on them, right? And then you got obviously guys coming in at 4 caps. Good luck, right?
Yeah, good luck at 4 caps when rates are 8.
So it just, I think us being steady and us being strong and being able to fight the naysayers, I think we are feeling the benefit of it now, and I think we're gonna continue to feel the benefit of moving forward.
That's great. So one quick comment to pull out there. You mentioned the receptors driving downtown. Mark spoke at an event last Tuesday I went to go see. Instead of taking Harlem all the way home from Oak Park, it was late, so no traffic. I did the 290 in so I could see it, and then 90 back home so I could see in the rear view. And I was like, God damn, like this never gets old. Like it's just beautiful. Like thank God I was born here and not in Dubuque. Like, no offense to anyone in Dubuque, but like, goddamn, like
but once again, God bless. Come on over, Dubuque, Iowans. There's a place to make a living here. But I'm glad you see it, and I'm glad that we haven't dulled those receptors in our brain to start still appreciating that and to be able to kind of, I'm with you, Mark.
I'm happy to know I'm not the only person that utilizes my rearview mirror going out the city on 90. Like I do that all the time.
Oh yeah,
too.
it's so
that's
good.
Hilarious.
It's like an album cover.
For how long though? Hold on, Mark. For how long though? You don't want to.
Yeah. Well, I usually don't say it out loud because people are like, "Oh man, if you're not texting, you're looking in the rearview mirror. Like, what's going on?" Like so. Yeah. You're right now. We hear your love for the city. We hear your love for what you do here locally and what you're going to do here long term. But right now you're in the middle of like one of the biggest deals you've ever done, I think. Like talk us about that. Talk us through that.
We just closed it last week. It was the Granville Towers. It's a 154 unit condo building built in the mid 60s. Beautiful building, beautiful project. Very
like 30
unique.
stories, right? This thing's huge.
28 stories. So our biggest deal yet when it comes to like one property. But the uniqueness about it was, it was just, the condo market is, the market is, the thing started as an apartment building, right? And then it converted to condos in the mid 80s, early 80s, and now we're bringing it back to apartments. But I mean, there's a reminder that there are a lot of condo properties that are, you step in, you're taking a time machine back to 1992, right? And if you're lucky, you're going to be in the millennium, right? So in this particular one, which I felt I was willing to go through the time necessary to make it work, to get the votes. Fortunately, there was the association was very focused. They really wanted to get this done. And then I made it easy for them. I gave them a pretty strong offer, and I didn't try to nickel and dime them as rates went up. I didn't try to, and I think they left some money on the table with potential other offers, thinking that the one that is serious, the one that has a reputation, and the one that I think the property was very unique and special to them, because we have a bunch of other properties in that area. Yeah, so we ended up getting it done. We closed it last week. We had some great 74% debt. Heartland Bank, very happy. First time doing a deal with them. They really stepped up.
I've used Justin Kennedy over there.
Justin, great guy, great team, never wavered as rates went up. It started at 6% and ended at 7.25. But it's just, I'm at 7.25. Now here it is, rate agnosticism into play. I got to make this deal work for the next 5 years, fixed for 7.5. Can I do it? 7.25. I have to. And there it is. You keep working it. And then if, the opportunity, if rates come back down, then that's where the appreciation side of things go. But yeah, if anything, what I really like, and this is where I want you to think about as you guys continue to grow the business, is one thing I really liked about the property is the property itself and how you can make it work and cash flow and add force appreciation now, right? We're not fly appreciation. There's a difference, right? We know that by now. Fly appreciation is got the high flyers flying on rates, right? Well, we're forcing this thing, right? By just hard, diligent work, ideas, space planning, making sure you make the units functional and obviously finished well. Yeah, what was I going to say now? I missed that part. Okay, I'll come back.
When you're there, just real quick, just for our listeners, episode 135, Tuesday tip on condo deconversions with our friends from Kaiser. I believe we're involved with this one as well.
Andy Friedman, I call him the deconversion Dukes, Andy and Jake. And I say if
we should have named the episode that. We messed up.
That's all right. You can always go back. But no, they were, and I can say, I don't want to say it out loud because Andy is, and he might let it go to his head. Jake less so. He's a lot, but no, they handled themselves very well. There a lot of things came out the woodwork at the end. But fortunately, no, they'll tell you themselves. I think everything went beyond smooth compared to other deals that were out there. So yeah, it was. Okay. I found it, guys. So part of this, the additional thing that we're looking at outside of the property is, especially if you're scaling in a certain neighborhood. And I want your listeners to think about this too, as they add 2 or 3 flats, this and that, and across the board, is what kind of value does that property bring to the rest of your portfolio, right? Does what you bring, could it potentially cannibalize what you currently have, right? Because for leasing purposes, it's easier to lease things that are more diverse. You have a whole mix of things. So one thing I really loved about this property is because they're all duplexes, right? To find a high rise that is all duplex units and that was another reason that I was just willing to hang tight and write a non-contingency offer to them. That was another thing that we were able to get the deal is here, non-contingent. I'm willing to ride, whatever issue comes up, I'm willing to ride through it. So the great thing about having this product where you have a bunch of other product in the neighborhood is it's diverse, it's different, it's duplex. So you're not cannibalizing what you have down the block. So that's something I'd like your listeners to think about too.
I love that. I think it's 1221 North Dearborn. It's another building that's all duplexes, and it kind of gives you a feeling almost of like you're not in an apartment anymore. You're kind of in a almost single family home, even though you're not. But that's awesome about this property. As far as you closed, just I get this question all the time, like how many people like stuck around and you convert them to tenants? How many people moved out? Like,
Yeah. So one big thing about getting the deal done, because there are a lot of owner occupied
yeah,
residents there, was a very aggressively favorable priced lease back. So a lot of the residents got this lease back for the first 6 months, like way below market, way below market. And then after 6 months, it would go up, but still, but way below market, right? So the favorable, what allowed this deal to happen is residents that got a good pay, not a good payday, but a payday beyond what they ever thought they would ever get for their property. No doubt about it. No question about it. Was, okay, where am I going to go? Right? You read on Wall Street Journal recently, it's 50% more expensive to own something right now today than rent something, right? There's this level of the buying is we are back to, guys, we're reliving 2005, 2006 again, where the buy side for certain assets got more expensive than the rent side, right? On an equivalent basis. So yeah, I mean, these residents got great favorable leasebacks, and I hope they're going to stay with us for a long time. The goal is after the year, they're going to see all the improvements and all the things that we've done, and they're going to hopefully come up close to market.
how long did you lock in? Was it just 6 months? Was it a year? How long did you pencil?
So we did there was a 12-month lease, and the first 6 months they got like it was a 15, I think, % discount, and then there was a negotiated rent, and then there's a 15 or 20% discount on those first 6 months with an out to leave anytime they want, right? So we also gave them if you found a place, you can leave. You give a 30-day notice and you can leave. We're not going to hold you to it, right? So the very favorable lease, very favorable lease. So yeah, the first 6 months, and the next 6 months was the rates went up, but still very favorable.
So after 12 months, what is there a rule of thumb calculation wise of how much turnover you think you'll have?
Well, right now we currently we're about 79% occupied there. So we have 20% that moved out. In fact, I just did a walkthrough today. We have about 30 units, and then we're starting to set up our renovation.
That's enough to start though, right? Like, yeah, go bang those
so,
out.
Yeah, right now there is some level of urgency that we want to be able to have. So we're in the process of now, there's some property units that, guys, have you ever experienced, and I hope you have, when you get under contract and you buy a building that you actually were surprised to the upside, right?
Well, then I know it's gonna just go down at some point, but it's nice to have that. I know something else will happen and it'll all even out. But
okay,
nice to have that little,
Tom, it sounds
extra
like,
bullet.
Yeah, fair. How about just appreciating that initial surprise to the upside? How about that? Okay, so yeah, we've right now doing the walkthroughs because we didn't get a chance to go through all of them. We found some interesting nuggets of units, and it's so interesting when a property is being owned by 154 units. It's like, as we're setting up our renovation plan, oh, you know what? That's actually a good idea for what we want to be. It's like we're taking bits from different things that owners did in that building to be able to hopefully come up with the right scheme for our renovation plan, which is something that's interesting.
This was a complicated deal, just being it's a conversion by itself. But for our listeners, a lot of people are, and I think a lot of your portfolio is 3-4 story walk-ups. How is the due diligence piece of a 28-story building different than your walk-ups? I mean, you got different mechanicals. Like, talk to us about that.
There's a few things, and there's a few things that I think that other bigger operators and owners probably weren't interested. I had some lane when it came to guys like me. There's some of the syndicators that I think I was competing against, because at the end of the day, they're looking to make fees and deploy cash, which it's a different model, even in this market. But the other owner operators for this particular deal, there was with this for due diligence was the big thing was there's union contracts. There's 2 of them. There's 9 employees on that building. There's 5 doormen. There are 4 maintenance guys. So there's this, and those contracts are 1 to 2 years, depending on the contract. So that was a big one. That was like, for some people, like, I'm not touching that. At least a couple of guys that I know. So that's just, that the property was so unique and special to us that, we can hang tight with that. I mean, we'll put them to work but that was one. The other stuff, elevators, you want to make sure something out of left field doesn't come there. Fortunately, they were done. Windows, they were done 10 years ago. Some of those big structural things, you want to make sure you don't have to do. We may have to do some repair work here and there. But yeah, those are the big ones. I mean, the heating system, that it's going to be pretty inefficient, but when you have a big building like that, the economies aren't so bad, right? So yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, the big thing on due diligence was that made the deal a little hairy was some people were afraid of some of the exterior work, structural wall repair and stuff like that it may need. And we saw that it wasn't as bad as thought. And then just the contracts, just dealing with the risk of having a big rat in front of your building.
What's crazy? Like, it's hard in a building that size to like do an exterior repair without being in six figures. Like, just the size of the contract. Like, people are buying condos for the price of what you just have to tuck point a section that's 18 stories up. Like, it's crazy how that
Yeah,
happens.
what I did, Mark, is I called my guy who I put to work. I'm like, can you handle this? It's like, Sal, we can. I love doing that. I'm like, okay, as long as you say that, if I have to hang you out there to fix a lintel. But yeah, but still, but you're right. It is very costly. And
on the union side of things, like that's something I guess I wouldn't have anticipated. Are all the door guys in the city? I've assumed this, but they're all union for the most part?
At least then I know, at least the contract that we have, there's a bunch of properties on it. And by the way, great guys. Got a chance to talk to them, and I've been very honest with them. I say I've never taken over property with a doorman. I've lived in one, and I really don't care for it. So that's like my own thing. I've lived in one, but tell me, I need you guys to give me a good sense of your value, and don't take it wrong. I'm telling you face to face. You tell me how important you are to this operation, and we can talk about the long-term sustainability of it after the contracts, right? So and we're still in process there, but no, it's at the end of the day, one thing I love is that the property was very well maintained. There's a lot of diligence for taking. You've probably seen these properties. Some of these condo buildings are, like I said, zombie buildings. There's zombie condo buildings. This one, there was a lot of attention to detail. And they had high assessments, which is also it was healthy, Mark and Tom. It was a healthy association. They got almost $900 a one bedroom for HOA fees for reserves, and almost like $1,300 for a two bed. And the unit makeup is ones and twos, majority ones. So yeah. Tom, tell me if I'm getting long winded.
No, this is all good, Sal. What's next, right? You gotta handle this beast. You have other rehabs going on, right? Like, you have a lot here. The next 6 months, right? Are you still on the trail? Are you still looking to buy in your area? Like, what does that look like? I know you don't have a set plan, but give us an idea.
I would say this. I mean, yeah, this is a big one, and there's this level of digestion that you have to go through, and I think a lot of it is, guys. I mean, there's a reason why what we do is so darn special and purposeful, and I want your audience to kind of also get that out of these conversations, guys. You're not just and the speculators out there, the ones that are left, because I'm not a fan of the speculation. I like the long-term hold invest. That's my model, right? The speculators, the flippers. I understand you need to make your capital, and that's the way to get it. I get it, but okay. What was your question again? I'm sorry.
The next 6 months for Sal. You got to take on this bad boy, but what else? We still out there?
So no, I think overall we're just gonna we have to get this. We're jumping on this one. There's other properties. The next 3 or 4 properties I'm in the process of getting stabilized. We're doing renovations on. Now other opportunities out there. We'll see how things go. I mean, we're always open-minded to adding things in our core neighborhoods, and we focus on, and this is something your audience hopefully can appreciate, is you have to have a wheelhouse. And in my case, I kind of I went to Catholic school. I'm a Muslim, went to Catholic school. So I really know the Holy Trinity very well. So you have to have, I think there's this law of three. The law of three, and in my case, it's three neighborhoods. It's Uptown, Edgewater, Rogers Park. And they're right next to each other, right along the lake. And we're going to continue to reinvest there. And once again, it's the mindset of these properties, how I look at things and what keeps the pressure off of my back is we're stewards, right? What we do is these properties will be here a lot longer than we will be, right? So what we can do hopefully is we make them nice, we make them operate well, we get the most out of them, and hopefully there are residents that come out and will appreciate this, and they don't come from Mars. They don't come from outer space. There are residents that come from other parts of these neighborhoods that come and will appreciate the good stuff that we're doing in Rogers Park, where I'm at now on Howard Street. And that's just, and then, you leave something better than you found it. That's the goal.
I love it. I love it. You have a massive operation just in your day to day. You're taking on these massive projects. You're stabilizing number of properties. Like, how is leading that? I mean, that's tough. I don't know how many employees you have or how many people you work, but no matter what, there's a management component of that. Like how difficult it is, or what things have you learned over the years? Like because scaling is obviously always an issue. That's usually what creates people's ceilings.
A good question. And I say it's like a layer cake. Have you guys been to the Jordan restaurant? They got the 23 layer cake. For some reason, that analogy comes to my head. It's like what makes that 23 layer cake is each layer, right? And the idea is you don't get to that without having to do getting through each layer. A bad analogy, sorry, but that's the only one that came up. I think I'm hungry. But the idea is the steps. There's things that now, guys. There's things that now that we're doing that I could never imagine doing 5 years ago. So remember that, make sure that each one of those successes, that 2 flat, that 3 flat, make sure that darn thing's a success, right? Don't try to put 4, 5, 6 things in the hopper and like a lotto machine. Right? There's this level of, you can start being a little speculative. Don't get me wrong. You can, when you start creating the kind of income producing properties, then you can start being a little, you got streams coming here, stream here. Then you can push yourself and be a little bit more speculative. But you can be speculative when you don't want to be speculative when you don't have anything, right? You want to be able to layer by layer. Mark.
But so you've grown something, and maybe you don't even realize it because it's became a natural thing to you. But a lot, you said something about have the 2 flat, have the 3 flat. That's perfected, right? And there's a lot of people that can't achieve perfection without. I got to do it myself. And you can't get anywhere near where you're at right now without having a huge team. Like, how have you like? And sometimes you just natural visionaries build teams under them, but like that, you have to have a bunch of people that buy into your vision.
We're gonna have a sit down at my sofa somewhere. Just you're gonna have to tease this. Well, first, what helps? What helps is this: management operation. Number one, I come out of operations. The first 10 years, I took on our family business. I was not interested not buy a building, but not even a unit of growth, right? First 10 years, so hardcore operations. Just make sure I perfect that and I can just be really good at that, right? And then after that, after 10 years is when I started saying, okay, now I'm going to put my investor hat on, right? But operations management, number one, part of that secret sauce, right? Then after that is you build, the other part is a construction team, right? So you ask me, I have a GC firm, EMS Builders. Under that, I have 7 different contractors, and they have their teams. And that you don't build unless you have good people. So I have guys now with me 20 years. I have guys that started out as maintenance guys, and I saw that they wanted more. They were hungry for more, and all of a sudden they're running their head construction. right? So it's like I can go from maintenance to construction. So having construction. Now, one thing I'm really looking at doing is our brokerage. We have Becovic Realty. In this new office that we opened up on Howard Street, where it's our management leasing team are there, but there's also our Becovic Realty team on the brokerage side, which I think there's an opportunity to build, and we have 4 or 5 brokers right now, but I think there's an opportunity to grow the brokerage side of the operation, residential, with this idea of apartments too, brokering apartment units. So that's also, and I have somebody there too. So it's just a matter, guys, I go nuts if I had to think about it all. So you have to have, you find the right people. Fortunately, I try to be a nice person. Guys, I need to say this too. It's a lot easier to be nice. It takes a lot less strain off of you. It makes you focus. Being at a default, being a nice position helps you better. And it sounds a little corny, but this level of just positive and nice, this idea of hearing guys in business, the zero sum, that doesn't help. Zero sum, that zero sum thinking. I'm always a believer in pies getting bigger, right? I'm not about fighting about slices, right? So it's you build a good team, make sure that you reward them, you give them and not just reward them financially, but reward them with giving them good responsibility, and they take pride. I mean, I love that my team is proud of where we've come. So
I believe the being nice is crucial. Zero sum, I think that I'm all about the win-win or win-win-win if there's 3 people involved, whatever it might be, but I think the being nice, people I see managers all the time run into the beating around the bush or not being direct. We know you, and we know you're very direct. Like, what advice would you give people as they're trying to grow and deal with people, just to be very blunt with what they want? Because I think people struggle with I want to be nice, but if I'm honest and tell them what I'm really thinking, they're gonna think I'm mean.
Yeah, so a good call. So let me nuance that, because I was going to do that. Good call for clearing that up. It's like I was saying this recently. Nice with an edge. So it gives you the sense of, I'm nice, guys, but there's this level of edge. And every now and then it's okay to have that edge, because you built that, like anything. You build good capital with someone, good human capital with your colleagues. You can be a little tough with them, but they'll know at the end of the day that you've built, you're invested in them. They know that it doesn't come from a power play that I'm going to have on you, right? They know that, so yeah, nice with an edge, let's say. So I would tell this to your colleagues, to everyone listening, is at the end of the day, be nice, be positive, but you can also and lay that foundation, but then have an edge. And maybe the edge part comes after, right? Maybe the edge is not good before the nice, right? Because first impressions are important. So yeah, it's this level of nice in the beginning. Lay the groundwork. Take people off their guard. People want to be disarmed, right? They don't, and especially after what we've gone through the last few years. Everyone's got this edge to them. So you can have the edge, but lay the groundwork with the nice.
That's some good advice.
Yeah,
that's another and by the way, that's another podcast. We're gonna splice that up, come up with another podcast.
Yeah.
Well, it's a whole other one, man. Just enjoy the journey, right? Like, this is all gonna be done at some point. Like, enjoy it. Like, you don't go to bed feeling better that you're a dick to someone, right? Yeah. Like, there's no way that makes you feel any better. Like, enjoy the journey on it. So we have covered a ton here. Before we wrap, anything else? Anything else we missed? Anything else you want to hit on here?
Hold on. Well, I took some notes here. Let me see here. Okay, guys, it's so important, this idea of when you look at your asset and look at your business, and it's a financial term, but positive operating leverage. You want to be polling, right? You want to be able to make sure your top line is growing faster than your middle line, right? Right. And a lot of that is pushing the top line. And then some of that management stuff is
for the guy with the 3 unit. Besides raising rents, what are other things that push that top line? Like,
I think not to push the besides raising rents, besides making sure not just, I don't want to say besides raising rents, like raising rents, but it's besides getting being able to discover your market, right? Sometimes some people will say, rent that apartment right away. I would say I don't mind it being empty. just so I can discover to see if maybe someone is maybe that market, maybe those studios can be 1,300, and I don't want to move it at 1,100 right now, though I could move it. And maybe financially, from a short-term perspective, it's a smart move, but I'm a long-term player, right? My goal is, and I would tell this to your team and to everyone listening, is always think about, we're discovering something, we're researching this as we go. And by doing it, and by letting yourself kind of hold the line, Braveheart style, guys, if you watch Braveheart, tell me you watch Braveheart. The line where they're running at him, and Mel Gibson's like, hold, right? Watch the YouTube video. Just say, hold Braveheart. You'll see what I'm talking about. And it's like making sure you pick the right moment there's a moment to let go, and there's a moment to hold. And the hold moment, you can discover a lot of good things for your business moving forward, right? Not being so quick to, it's a part of what we're doing is market research, right? It's price discovery. So polling, make an impact. Make an impact is this idea of why I'm invested in 3 neighborhoods, is because I want to make an impact. You won't see me buying stuff in other states. You won't be see me buy stuff in other neighborhoods, because I choose to make an impact at certain neighborhoods, and I choose to continue to scale in those neighborhoods because I can make an impact in those neighborhoods, right? Stewardship and service, looking at what we do as stewards of our properties, right, is big. I could keep going, but yeah, that's. Oh, how about this? From golden handcuffs to horror handcuffs. I wrote that down, but I'm trying to figure out what I meant by that. Okay, that's fine.
That's awesome.
Okay, that's it. Okay, I'm done.
You sounded like Sonny from Roxdale with the proximity one.
Yeah,
you know why I invest here?
Yeah. Who? What?
Cool.
What?
Sonny from Roxdale.
Oh, from Roxdale. Yes, you know what? You're gonna make me check out that. I got to go to that clip. I
Chaz. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. You're exactly
all right. Cool. Let's, Mark, you ready to wrap?
Ready to wrap, man.
Let's do it. Sal, here we got our fire round for you.
All right, you're a guy that's always growing, so I know you'll have different answers probably for this, just because your life and your mindset changes. What's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do this while others wish they could?
Competitive advantage first, number one, first 10 years, like I said, operation minded. I'm an operations, operations is number one, right? Understanding, being able to price discover my market, being able to make sure that the running of the asset of the property is as optimum as possible. You use that information to then go ahead and, so that's one. The other comparative advantage we have is that we have a construction in-house team, right? So we have our own license. So it allows us to permits and do that stuff where you don't have, you're not having contractors use permits over your head, of all things, right? Right. So you have, and then the idea is you've made it a focus to grow that. So then all of a sudden you slowly find the right people. And fortunately, we've been able to find 7 different contractors that we've had to sub out 1 or 2 here and there. But for the most part, we've been able to keep them busy, and that's it. And just be in it. Like, for example, we moved to Howard Street, guys, with this idea that the only place, because our main office is in Clarendon, but I wanted to have something on Howard Street, is because we are so invested here, and part of our secret sauce, like that union painter and office cleaning lady, part of that secret sauce is I gotta live in it, right?
Yeah.
Same thing here. We gotta live in it. Our team has to live in it, and that's why we're here at Howard Street.
Good stuff. All right, you've already dropped a lot of advice, but give us the one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy their first property here in Chicago.
I would say, I mean, just compound it. You know, this idea of financial compounding, you heard that term? It's been a big word these days, compounding. Just knowledge compounding something. Get into, find either, make sure you're in the business somehow, right? Either work under some company that allows you to get that experience, become a broker. Just compound that knowledge. Go out there and see properties. Keep compounding, right? It's this idea of 10,000 hours. That's another way, right? You can hear that. You've heard that term, but it's just compound knowledge, keep hammering away. But I think a couple of things, if you want just tangible, good brokerage, find that, or find someone like me, good benefactor that allows you to kind of grow, kind of gives you some work here and there, you get in the sauce a little bit. But yeah, I think ultimately just be in it, you know, and then, you know, go out there, find something, you know, test it out, buy a 2 flat, you know, buy at 5%. I have a guy in my office does that, 5%, 5%, 2 flat. You can do one a year, right?
Yep.
Great.
All right, cool. What do you do for fun?
You know what, guys? Outside of my 2 kids, I think I want to take up golf. So I did I did a round a month ago, and I think I like it. I think I like the golf cart part.
Yeah, it's like a go-kart.
It's
Yeah,
like
no,
vodka
it's fun.
lemonades.
I will not go golfing without them letting me drive. Like that's the fun part.
You know,
for me.
I think it's something like that. You know, I think so. Yeah, I think that's something outside of that. Up until then, up to now is obviously my rigorous workout routine, guys, which I'm killing, right? And just family and yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm very on top of the macro news. I mean, yeah, it's like I think that's going to be the next question. So I think I have an answer.
Oh, it's getting there. Yeah. What is a good book, podcast, or self-development activity you'd recommend to our
You
listeners?
know what? I'm really in the macro. So I get the Bloomberg newsletters. There's some great writers there from Bloomberg. John Auters, Matthew Levin. I listen. So just talking about the macroeconomics of things, guys. I mean, I think it's so important for us to take a step back and know that we are living in such a huge. We've always say this. I get it, but this is a very kind of anything can go. This thing can go either way. It's so with we're kind of in this uncharted territory right now where we have rates doing what they're doing, and then we have the Fed thinking they're doing what they're doing, and it's like something has to give. And then all of a sudden you have the geopolitics of things. Then you think we killed inflation, right? And the concern is, are we in 1978 or are we in 1983? We'll see. So being on top of the macro, guys, this is like being, I said this before, this is like banking with beds here. What we do is like banking, but with beds, right? So it's so important that we're on top of the macro. I want your listeners to start, get your Bloomberg, get your newsletters. I'm a big fan of The Economist. I think I said that before. They do a great job analysis of everything, but specifically business and finance. So yeah, be on top of the financial landscape, no doubt.
All right, awesome. Besides yourself, name one person in your local network you'd highly recommend to other investors.
I've said this before. I think once again is getting involved. I'm going to re-say it because it's getting involved with your local organizations. MBOA, we mentioned that. Mike Glasser, here in Rogers Park, there's a Rogers Park Builders Group. Anyone who's doing business in Rogers Park and is not involved in the Rogers Park Builders Group, start today. Reach out. Anyone who's doing business in Edgewater and is not involved in the Edgewater Uptown Builders Association, start today. Those are they're two very prevalent and powerful interests. I'm also, guys, Chicagoland Apartment Association. They invited me to talk on November 8th at the Union Club. So I'll be part of a panel. So obviously the Chicagoland Apartment Association is a big organization to be involved in.
On straightupchicagoinvestor.com, we now under resources have a MBOA page that links to all the different, I think there's 9 groups now. So it links to all their websites.
Edgewater's got the best acronym there, UBA. Out of all the MBOA ones, that's the easiest one.
UBA.
All right, Sal, thank you so much. You provide a ton of value to the listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
I would say the kind of value you can provide outside of just being nice. Just be nice. But no, outside of that is, Maybe that's all I should answer. Just be nice.
That's good.
You know,
I like it.
everything
Good
else,
cap.
I don't need it. I don't need anything else right now from you guys.
I like that one.
I
Yeah,
like it.
let's leave
Be
it.
nice.
I think I said that before, but I'm gonna say it again because I really feel.
I like
But
it.
with
There's
edge,
that
with
Catholic
edge,
school in
with
you right
edge.
there, man.
But guys, but with edge,
Be nice.
you
with
can be
edge.
tough
I
with
like
me
it.
too, as long as you're nice. Okay.
Get some t-shirts right there.
All right, Mark, we got a Chicago fact. Who we playing for? Who's sponsoring?
All right, so we're playing for Amelia. I'm going to butcher your last name, Disiskowski. Sorry, Amelia, but we are playing today. And if myself or Sal get the Chicago fact right, our sponsor today, Cost Seg Kev, will send you a $50 gift card.
All right, so you mentioned you're sitting on Howard Street. I believe you also have an office in Uptown, though, or over on Clarendon.
You got it.
And I know that's relatively close to the Green Mill Cocktail Lounge. So all these facts are true about the Green Mill Cocktail Lounge, except, and I'm going to give you the 4 facts. You tell me which one is not true. It was featured in the movie High Fidelity. Al Capone used to be a regular, and there's still an access hatch tunnel behind the bar that connects to the adjacent building. It's located on Winthrop. Louis Armstrong and other famous jazz players were regular performers. Which one of those is not true about the Green Mill Cocktail Lounge?
Well, who's getting? Should I give the answer?
Mark, you get one, and then Sal, you bail him out if he doesn't.
I'm going to say 2, Al Capone.
All right, you're going to go with Al Capone. What are you going with, Sal?
Are you serious? If I get this wrong, might as well excommunicate me. What are you talking about? On Winthrop Avenue.
It's all Broadway. I want to make sure you got it.
Might as well send me to Florida, for God's sake. Just send me on a plane. Right? Obviously Winthrop. Okay, it's on Broadway.
Well, if you do a cost seg now, Kev's going to raise that price $50. He would just cost him $50.
All right. Congrats on that.
All right. Well, Amelia, you got a $50 gift card coming your way, brought to you by Cost Seg Kev. So that I'm happy you saved that one for me, Sal. I was purely guessing. So I feel like every bar in Chicago, even the suburbs, has this secret hatch. So if that really has it, all right, awesome, man. Sal, thanks for coming back in. You offer tons of value. Love having you on here. You got such an awesome energy. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, hey, you have to leave us a 5-star review over on iTunes. We'll put the link in the show notes. Check it out. That helps us get found. And now when you leave a review, make sure you leave your name and we'll enter you in to be a participant for the Chicago Fact, where you get a $50 gift card as well too. And your name announced and you become halfway famous, at least with the thousands of people that listen to us. So Sal, thank you very much. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, we'll see you next week.
Thanks
all.
guys. Appreciate it.